Hey baby, can we pick up Sekiro today?
No, Abe, we have Sekiro at home.
If you were ever wanting a great value version of Sekiro, then look no further than Echoes of E, Samsara. Developed by Runmeng and released on April 17th, 2025. But Avery, is this a game actually worth playing? In my opinion, yes, absolutely. I had a ton of fun playing this game. Now I did go into it with some tempered expectations after watching some of the previews, and I'm sure that helped a little. But outside of some terrain related bugs and one that actually made me start my run completely over, this game operated a lot better than I expected it to. But what? Another 3D game? Yep, we are back with another 3D game, and there will be a lot more of these with all of my anticipated releases coming out for the rest of the year. So be sure to stay tuned for those. But in the meantime, make sure you go check out my most recent videos where I did a review on the full game of Blasphemous 2 and a boss ranking of all the bosses in the game, including the DLCs. Be sure to like and subscribe while you're over there. But now, let's get into the review. First stop, we're going to talk about the combat. Now, if you're going to play this game for any reason, it's going to be the combat. It is truly the bread and butter of this game. If you like the combat in Sekiro, you're going to like it here as well. I truly feel like the developers tried to mimic Sekiro as much as possible, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. With it being like Sekiro, it's very parry and deflect based. You do have a dodge, but obviously you're not going to use it all that much. And in this game, you're going to use the same sword throughout the entire game, so don't worry about trying to find other weapons. This game also has its version of the Mikiri counter, except this one glows blue and you don't have the kanji signs. But it operates the same way. You dodge forward and you get some spirit damage. Spirit in this game is going to be like your posture bar. If your spirit bar breaks, you're going to go down and the enemies can get a critical hit on you, but same goes for them. You will also get abilities in this game called martial arts, and these take MP to use, which are the little circles you see above your health bar. These are active abilities in the game that you can use in combat, like the palm strike that does significant spirit damage, or a fire swing that ignites your sword after you do two very large swipes. There are a ton of martial arts in this game to use, however, I found myself really only using those two for the entirety of the game. You can also get this game's version of consumables, which it calls weapons. The localization of this game is kind of rough, so the translations don't really go one-to-one. But anyway, with these you can make your weapon poison, fire, lightning. These are your throwing knives, and these things called flicking arrows, which were my favorite in the game. The flicking arrows just do a ton of spirit damage and kind of nullified a very late game boss. In Echoes of E, you have talent trees as well. You start out with two, one being more combat based and the other one being more like upgrading your health potions and enemies dropping more loot. And by loot, I mean like currency. It's not like Neo, there's not actually gear. You can unlock a third talent tree and a fourth one eventually. I only ever found the third one and I 100% of the game, so I have no idea how you get the fourth one. And that's basically all the components of the combat in this game. The combat does feel extremely smooth in this game. Like I said, if you like Sekiro style combat, you're going to like it in this game as well. Where a lot of the game can feel kind of clunky and not as greatly designed, the combat is very well designed. Some of the deflects are tough but fair, although it was kind of hard to tell if I was deflecting or blocking at certain times, but that's neither here nor there. You have plenty of options to make the combat more interesting or intuitive with the consumables and the different martial arts. Overall, the combat is a ton of fun and very well executed in this game. Now let's talk about the level design. Honestly, at first, I thought this game was going to be a straight up boss rush, and at times I thought it might have benefited from just being a straight up boss rush. The levels are gorgeous and they all have their unique themes, but sometimes the levels only felt like their purpose was to serve as a break in between the bosses. The level design is also where many of the bugs came into play. No, I'm not talking about those bugs. These bugs. This was a point in the game about an hour and a half into my playthrough where my character literally got stuck in the ground. There were other parts of this run where I had kind of phased into the earth, and the game gives you this feather item which essentially operates as a homeward bone, and it was able to get me out of every other situation. But not this one. I couldn't run, I couldn't jump, I couldn't dodge, I couldn't use an item, I couldn't do anything except quit out of the game. I tried to find other saves online, I tried to look into my cloud, but unfortunately that was the first time I had quit out of the game since I started the run, so that was my only cloud save I had. So unfortunately I was forced to restart my run. Luckily I was only an hour and a half into it, but regardless it was still unfortunate. Outside of the bugs, the levels were pretty well designed. There were a ton of hidden paths that led to hidden areas, item chests, and bosses. I found myself paying ultra close attention to the areas because some of the paths were pretty well hidden. Not too hidden though, because I was able to get every single boss on my first playthrough, minus the very first boss, but we'll get into that in a second. Overall, the level design in this game is pretty good. I just wish some of the areas were ironed out a little bit more to prevent some of the game-breaking bugs. Now let's talk about the bosses. And as you know, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the specifics of the bosses because of course there's going to be a boss ranking video coming up after this one. And in this game I played on the 0 difficulty. So when you start the game, you get a difficulty option and you literally start on 0 and you can go all the way to +10 or -10. So I just played the game on 0, which I assumed was normal difficulty. I did this because there weren't any achievements that had anything to do with difficulty in the game, and I didn't feel like bashing my head against this game for who knows how many hours. So all of the opinions of the bosses are going to be from their normal difficulty. Now, I really enjoyed the vast majority of the bosses in this game, except you. And you. Fuck you. Dumb fucking frogs. None of the bosses in this game felt unfair by any means, and a lot of them were pretty intense as well. Some of them will even integrate magic into their movesets, because of course they do. Now, about that first boss that I wasn't able to get on my first run. So his name is Sword Saint. A little on the nose, don't you think? Anyway, he kind of serves as your tutorial boss, but also the boss that you're supposed to die to. On top of that, he does not become a boss later in the game, so this is your one and only shot at him. I didn't really like this design, especially since there's a boss rush at the end of the game, and if you didn't beat him in the beginning area, you don't get to fight him again. It's just kind of a weird decision to me. On top of that, there is an achievement to beat him in the beginning area, so definitely give it a few tries if you're into that. Overall, the bosses in this game are pretty great, minus a few. Stay tuned for my next video for a full boss ranking. So real quick, let's talk about the story and the soundtrack. And I say real quick because this story lost me almost immediately. There's something about this sacred tree and a sacred seed, and it's like, I guess a bad thing or a good thing. Again, I couldn't really keep up. The game is in Chinese and the subtitles don't really do a whole lot of heavy lifting here, so I kind of just didn't bother to try to keep up with it. The game also kind of abruptly ends, and then you get a thank you for playing part 1. So maybe there's a sequel coming out, maybe there's a DLC. I'm not sure. I wasn't able to find anything online other than other people speculating about it. But the game is barely over a year old, so I'd give it some time. The soundtrack is pretty decent. If you have any idea what kind of like ambient Chinese culture soundtracks sound like, then you kind of have a good idea of what this one is. It's very fitting for what you're doing. I didn't find myself getting annoyed with the soundtrack at any point, but there weren't very memorable moments either. It was fine overall. Overall, I'm going to give Echoes of E Samsara a 7 out of 10. I very much enjoyed my time with this game, and I'll recommend it to anybody that really loves Sekiro and needs more kind of parry deflect style combat to really get your fix. But as always, make sure you check me out on Twitch and TikTok, where we're going to be streaming these games going forward for more reviews. And as always, stay safe out there. Peace.